I'm Missy Garlisi. I serve as the District Membership Chair Committee Chair in District 7950. My home club is the Rotary Club of Braintree, Massachusetts, and it is my honor and true pleasure to welcome you all to breakout session 3A this morning. Let's grow your Rotary Club's membership. We have a lot to cover today, so I'll waste no time in introducing our featured presenters for this, the membership breakout session. Today, we are honored to hear from Martha Hellman, better known as Rotarian Marty Hellman, Zone 32 Innovative Club Advocate of the Rotary Club of Booth Bay Harbor, Maine, located in District 7780, which is Southern Maine and coastal New Hampshire. Marty served as 7780's District Governor in the 2012-13 year. She is the 2020-21 Chair of the Rotary Foundation's Peace Major Gifts Initiative. Marty is currently a trainer for zones 28 and 32, and she has been a trainer for the governor's-elect and governor's nominee at Zone 28-32 institutes for a number of years, as well as for District 7780 governors-elect. Marty's fellow presenter today is the one and only Herb Klotz of District 7430 and the Rotary Club of Allentown West in Pennsylvania. Herb serves as Zone 32 Innovative Clubs Advocate, Zone 32 Rotary Coordinator for 4 Eastern Pennsylvania districts. Herb will be the Zone 32 Rotary Coordinator for the 2021-22 year. Herb has also served as 7430's District Governor in the 2019-20 year and served the same district as Membership Chair from 2016 to 18. Herb played a role in developing and implementing a strategic action plan to grow district membership, which included both building vibrant existing clubs and adding new innovative clubs. From 2016 to 19, District 7430 increased its membership in 3 of those 4 years, added 4 new clubs and 4 satellites, resulting in a net gain of nearly 100 members. Marty and Herb have a riveting presentation for you today, and I know they're excited to begin. So I'll invite Marty and Herb to take it away.
Okay, thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Herb.
I'm going to share my screen here. And okay, so, well, we are thrilled to be here with you today, and we would like to share with you two major topics. Unfortunately, I don't have any great videos. Marty and I did not dress up. I did not do the King Neptune thing, but we'll do our best. Okay. So the 2 topics that we want to cover today are attraction versus attrition, and this is more about, well, every club is different, and we all need to understand in our clubs, well, what's the most important problem for our clubs to solve? Sometimes it's around attraction, sometimes it's around engagement, sometimes it's around both, sometimes it's around neither. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that, but the majority of our talk today is going to be about secrets to club membership growth during and after the pandemic. We just recently started a study on this to understand, well, a number of different clubs that have grown during the pandemic, and what are some of the reasons why these clubs have grown. So without further ado, I want to get going because I want to make sure we have some time at the end to answer questions. So one of the things that I wasn't able to do for you today was to provide you data about your club in advance. And what I would have provided you is information about the attraction rates and attrition rates of your clubs. But no, don't worry, no problem with that. If you're in District 7950 and you're interested in getting this information, please, Missy has this information and can provide it to you, okay? If you're in District 7890, you can also ask Missy, but I have another option. In 2 weeks at your district training assembly, I'm going to be doing this presentation in more detail. And what we will be doing for that presentation is a few days before, I will be sending out to all the participants that are going to be part of that session information about their club. Okay, and the information I'm going to provide is your average attraction rate and your average attrition rate. Now, most of us are used to hearing the term retention as opposed to attrition. I prefer the term attrition because we can compare attrition directly to attraction. And if your attraction rate is greater than your attrition rate, your club is growing. If your attrition rate is greater than your attraction rate, your club is getting smaller. So now what we want to do next is kind of put attraction versus attrition on a grid. Okay, so we're looking at attraction rate versus attrition rate. And we have 4 different quadrants on here. So let me explain a little bit about this graph. The magic number that I chose to split the quadrants was 12%. There's nothing magical about that number, but what we found was when we did that, when we looked at quadrants 2 and 3, where in those 2 quadrants, we have clubs that are growing, we have clubs that are getting smaller, but most of the clubs in those 2 quadrants are in where I call the fragile balance, which I called yellow. Of course, if you're in the top left quadrant, you're high attraction, low attrition, you have a growth culture. Now, what do those numbers mean on the slide? Basically, those are the numbers of clubs and percentages of clubs in our zone, which is the Northeast United States, which fall into those categories. Okay, so about 10% of our clubs fall in the growth culture category, about a quarter of them fall into the stable, and about 35% fall into this high turnover category, and about a quarter of them fall into, unfortunately, what I'm calling the danger zone. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because we can look at this now and look at, well, what's the most important issue that your club needs to address? So let's go through these 4 very quickly. So number 1, quadrant 1 is high attraction, low attrition. Okay, if you're in that quadrant, obviously you're doing well. All right, keep doing what you're doing. Your club is growing, but don't sit still. Okay, we always need to be keeping improving. And I can tell you that there are clubs in both of your districts that fall into this category. All right, and by all means, share your ideas with other clubs and with your district leadership, because we're all in this together. We all need to grow Rotary. And yes, it can be done. We have a great product to sell here. We just need to sell it. There are lots of people in our communities with a heart for service. There is no shortage of that. So if you're in quadrant 2, low attrition, low attraction, well, your members are staying. Your members are engaged. They're not leaving your club. So keep engaging your members. You need your focus needs to be on attraction, and some different things to think about with respect to attraction, social media, member attraction events, etc. The one caveat I will make about if you're in this low attrition, low attraction quadrant, there are some clubs that have low attrition and they've tried to attract new members, but they're not able to do it. Okay. And what does that mean? Well, that means that every year, the average age of your club gets a year older, okay? This isn't going to last forever. So you may need to take a closer look at your club culture. And is your club attractive to the people you're trying to attract? If you're in quadrant 3, high attrition, high attraction, you're in the high turnover region, okay? But you know how to attract new members. So keep up your member attraction activities. Your focus needs to be on engagement because you've got a revolving door in your club. People are coming in, people are leaving. This was an aha for my club when I presented this to my club, because we were focused on attraction. We were focused on bringing in new members. What our membership committee didn't realize was we had a 17% attrition rate. We needed to do something about that. So the things we need to focus on are, making sure our members are engaged. And these are just some things to think about with respect to that. If you're in quadrant 4, well, now there's different levels of quadrant 4. So I always put this caveat in here when I talk about this. What we need to do is we need to look at what's the difference between our attraction and our attrition, because you could be up in the top left corner of this where your attraction and attrition aren't that different, right? But there are some cause for concerns. Or you could be in the bottom right of this quadrant where you've got high attrition and low attraction, and that might require some more drastic changes to your club. But our advice to you is start with member engagement, making sure your members are engaged, and then focus on attraction. So that's just sort of a little bit of an intro to this topic to whet your appetite for it. And, and as I said, Missy has the information for your clubs, and we're going to be updating this information every year. So sometime in August, we will update this information with historical data, including the 2021 year. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Marty, who's going to introduce our next topic.
Thank you very much, Herb. Thank you all. It's great to be here. Missy didn't include this in her introduction, but Herb is an engineer and he likes data. And I certainly agree that it's better when we're talking about membership to be talking about reality rather than somebody's good ideas. Somebody's good ideas are great, but let's talk about what the real facts are on the ground. And with that in mind, we thought we would turn to clubs that have actually grown in the past, the first 9 months of this Rotary year, and ask them what they're doing right, what they think they could be doing better, and what the secrets are for their success. Now, to do this, we looked at those clubs which have gained a net of 4 members or more between July 1st and March 30th in 5 districts in our zone. And we started in northern New England. We just did. And so I want to make it clear that even though there are no clubs highlighted from the 2 districts that are here in this room, that isn't because you don't have high growth clubs. You do. It's because we didn't, as I say, we just started this research and we didn't start in your areas. So we interviewed 14 club presidents, and this is brand new data. We've done this in the past few weeks. We're going to interview more club presidents and expand this data. But we had to start somewhere. So you're the first group that has seen this information. What we found is that there were definitely some trends of how these clubs grew, and that these trends are things that if you're so interested, you can pick up on in your area. Now, of the 14 clubs that we looked at, 1 grew by a net of 10 by starting a satellite club. Okay, I mean the way you get big growth is by starting a satellite club every time. That's the way it is. The other 13 that we looked at all did it the old-fashioned way. And so we were able to talk to these clubs and come up with several factors, and that's what we're going to share with you now. Herb, next slide. Okay, so these were the key factors that showed up in almost all of the club presidents we looked at. There were 6 of them. I would say that there's nothing new here that we couldn't have seen before the pandemic. But I think it's interesting that at a time when many of us were sitting around saying, well, we'll wait out the pandemic and then we'll figure out how to grow, that these clubs just moved right ahead and made the pandemic, turned the pandemic into an opportunity to grow. So let's go through them, each one, and talk about each one. Strong leadership came through, and in every case, we had a strong president who worked well with the leadership team and who probably had a very strong membership chair as well. Interestingly enough, many of the leaders were second time around club presidents, or they had been, in one case, we even had a past district governor who was the club president. That doesn't mean that if you have a president who's fairly new to Rotary that you can't grow, but it does suggest that relatively new president should take advantage of his or her board of directors and other experienced people throughout the club to help him or her with the work of leading the club. A real interesting example of this was the Hampton Rotary Club, which is in District 7780 in New Hampshire. The president is Larry, and one of the things that had been on Larry's to-do list from before the pandemic was to have a Rotary Day in the fall and to invite the community in to learn more about the club and more about membership and have a raffle and balloons and the whole bit. Now, along came the pandemic, but that did not slow Larry down. They changed the way they did it, but they continued to have their Rotary Day. He found an outdoor venue, a tent with socially distanced high top tables. And the plan was to do the speed dating thing where you go from table to table and learn more about Rotary. Now, they couldn't do that with members of the club at each table. So instead, they had a picture at each table of, for example, Rotarians at work at a local soup kitchen, and then a 3x5 card at the table that shared work about the club, what the club did at the kitchen. So what Larry said was that maybe we couldn't mingle, but we could still share what we were doing about Rotary. And as a result of this Rotary Day, 4 members joined the club. More recently, one of the things on Larry's to-do list was to reach out to first responders and to the town office to get police and fire and so forth to act and actively recruit them to join. This has only just happened a month ago. They've already got 1 new member out of this project, and Larry's anticipating 2 more between now and the end of the year. The Hampton Club has always traditionally done, I believe it's 2 fundraisers as part of big town-wide projects in the fall. These were canceled by the town, but Larry found a whole range of small activities and fundraisers for the club to be involved in. Essentially, the club exchanged check writing for hands-on service and kept everyone engaged, involved, and excited and thrilled about Rotary. And moreover, when the club received money back from unspent projects, Larry went to that board and arranged to spend the money on Rotary shirts and hats rather than as a rebate on dues or something. So Larry happens to be a past assistant governor, and his experience, I'm sure, was a help, but mostly it was just a matter of getting out and making things happen in the club. Herb, next one's yours.
Okay, so the second topic that we want to talk about was clubs staying busy. Okay, and the idea is that they're actively involved in both service projects, of course, socially distant, but still involved. And Marty just mentioned this moving away from check writing to hands-on service. You're going to hear that a couple of times. Actually, you're going to hear a lot of these traits throughout these 6 stories we're going to tell you. And typically, you've got 1 activity a month. You're keeping busy. And then the other thing another common trait that we heard from these club presidents was that they didn't say no. People came up with new ideas for their clubs, and they didn't say no. They said, let's try that. Let's see how that works. And some of them had very surprising results. Now, the example I want to share with you is the Cohos Rotary Club, and I believe they were in New Hampshire. They're right on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont. And this club president, Monique, is a brand new club president. So she was not someone with a whole lot of experience in Rotary. In fact, she's been in just for a couple of years. But this was a club that was very close to folding. And, the turning point for this club was sending out a survey to current and prospective members current and prospective members, interesting, asking their preferences on meeting time, meeting place. Now, this was a very traditional club that was was sort of on its last legs. No, it wasn't sort of. It was on its last legs. And they are now an e-club, and they're not going back. That's what they're going to be, right? And, you know, a new member, a recent retiree, has had a lot to do with helping to implement the changes that has occurred. And that new member is not the president. And now the club includes mostly female members in their 30s and 40s. But I'm supposed to talk about the club being busy. So one of the things that they did when they did their surveying is they asked about projects that the clubs wanted to do, and they didn't say no. One of the things that this club used to do was a basketball tournament, which took a lot of planning, and they pretty much decided they were going to stop the basketball tournament. So they did not do the basketball tournament, and they replaced it with many smaller projects. Some examples included a voter registration event, pet food drive where they collected over 1,000 pounds of pet food, and a toiletries drive for those in need. And they have one project a month. They actively use Facebook, you're going to hear about that some more later too, and press releases to the local paper to promote their events. And for the toiletries drive, one person dressed up as a tube of toothpaste and another one as a toothbrush for a promotional video. They like to have fun. So clubs stay busy. That clearly seems to be one of the secrets. So Marty?
Okay, engagement with the community is a trend that we really saw in many, many different ways. Some clubs are even taking advantage of the shutdown to be more engaged with the community. The club that really stood out in this is Western Wayland in District 7910, Massachusetts. And their director, that club has been focusing on business even before the pandemic, and has acquired new members who love the idea that it's okay to mix Rotary and business. The growth spurt happened, Club President John says, when the club partnered with a local senior center in town. As a result of that partnership, the director of the center joined the Rotary Club, and in the months that followed, she brought in 3 of her business contacts from other local nonprofits. President John says, we're doing what we've always done, but now we're doing a much better job of letting the community know our strengths, and as a result, they want to become part of who we are. The club also makes sure that it focuses on action rather than on meetings. It invites interested people to their projects, whether or not they're members, and it makes sure to invite potential members to projects and only later invites them to meetings. In other words, they're more interested in having potential members see the Rotary Club in action, not talking about what it is they're going to be doing. And the club always makes sure to say yes to new ideas. John points out that new members bring new strengths and new interests, and that nothing is worse than not giving those new ideas a try. Herb?
Okay. All right, number 4, effective communication. Successful clubs, from what I've seen, use Facebook and social media to publicize their events and activities. Now, personally, I've been involved with helping to start several new Rotary clubs. And I can tell you, based on firsthand knowledge, without social media, those clubs would never have started. That is such a critical piece of what we're able to do in today's world. And, and they communicate well with their members, but they also communicate very well with their community. And the example I want to share with you here is the Percy Rotary Club. Now, the Percy Rotary Club is in Pennsylvania. It's in the district that I'm a member of. Now, this club over the last year has grown from 12 to 24 members, okay? And I talked to their president, Hank, and Hank told me that one of the key things that we were able to do, and again, I will explain the communication, but again, you'll hear some of the themes from before. We got other organizations to partner with us. These are Hank's words. A game changer was when we got involved with a Facebook page for the betterment of our community. Now, this is a club that was very active with service projects before, but they only had 12 members. As we shared our activities and projects, the people joined us at the service projects and then joined the club. As a result, they have many new talents in their club. For example, new member Carol has strong social media skills, and Jason has tremendous organizational skills and is extremely well connected in the community. We didn't have these skills before. These are Hank's words. And, you know, this has helped them to grow. And honestly, as a past district governor, I've been so excited about this club growing. And I fully expect in the next 2 years, this club's going to have 40 members. That's really rare, I think they're going to be. But I want to tell you one of the stories. Now, this is so obviously Facebook and social media has had a tremendous impact on growing this club. But I want to tell you a story about a service project that they did. Now, this is another example of a project where the president didn't say no. There was a new member they're in there. They have a park in their community, and there are twin bridges in the park, and it's kind of like a landmark in their park. And one of the new members suggested that they decorate these twin bridges for Christmas. Okay, now that just seemed like a off the wall kind of idea, but the president, Hank, said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. It's not going to cost us a lot of money. Well, it turned out that people loved it and took many photos. This was at the depth of the pandemic. There were wedding proposals on this bridge. There were engagement pictures taken on this bridge. It was the most liked post on Facebook for several weeks during the holiday, and it gave them great publicity. And the story, as he told me the story, was, well, we went to try to take down the decorations after the holidays were over, and there was a photographer there, and he said, "No, you can't take down those decorations. I have to do some engagement photos here." So they literally had to wait a couple hours to take down the photos. And Hank said he said he never would have dreamed that spending this $150 on decorations for this bridge would have such an impact on the community and really, really helped the Rotary Club. So Marty?
It won't surprise you that flexibility is one of the key attributes. All of the clubs that we interviewed, of course, are meeting differently than they were pre-pandemic, and all are looking for new ways, hybrid ways to meet post-pandemic. None of them are talking about going back to 2019. They also, in terms of flexibility, are thinking in terms of changed member expectations and recognizing that that the old expectations are probably out of date in the post-pandemic world. One of the mantras we heard a lot was to meet members where they are. And this involves members showing up. Nobody was talking about attendance, for example, but it also referred to club activities. So if a member did not feel safe leaving his or her house, fine. The club found a service project they could do for homes, such as writing greeting cards to shut-ins. If moms and dad were busy homeschooling their kids and didn't have time for meetings, fine. The club found outdoor activities that they could take part in with their kids on Saturday morning. And a really great example of flexibility is the Randolph Sunrise Club in a small community in District 7850 in northern Vermont. Now this club was started 7 years ago by my governor classmate, Sonny Holt, as an alternative to the existing local noontime club. So flexibility may be easier for this club than for a more traditional one. From the beginning, that meant no meals, no fines, no singing. Also, from the very beginning and continuing till today, it has meant that club leadership sends out a survey monkey once or twice a year to all members to ask for feedback on how the club is doing. Now, I have to tell you that my classmate, Sonny, for him, telling jokes is part of the Rotary mantra to have fun. In fact, when he was governor, he created a district joke book. So jokes for him are very, very important. But in one of these in one of these Survey Monkeys, it came out that particularly some of the women in the club felt that what Sunny thought was funny maybe wasn't quite so funny for them, and so all jokes were eliminated from the club. Period. Sunny took his own lesson about following the Survey Monkey and got rid of what he thought was really cool. And he now tells me that jokes that he thought were funny probably were inappropriate in terms of diversity and inclusion. So there's two lessons there. One is to survey your members, and another is to actually follow through, even if what they say does not go along with your expectations. Herb?
Okay. And finally, creativity and persistence. Finding new ways to do traditional projects. But the one I'm going to highlight mostly is this idea of asking for involvement, not money. Okay. And the example I want to share with you is the Bristol Rotary Club. Now, in this case, the president of the club has been a Rotarian for over 30 years. And basically, he has lots of experience. He worked in another, he actually came from another district and retired to Bristol, New Hampshire. And his experience was at the district level down in the Hudson Valley in New York. And one of the things that happened to Bob during his experience in Rotary is he was part of a club that folded. Now, this club last year lost 3 of its key members due to things like that, life happens kind of things. Not anything serious, but, life happens, things change. And he saw the writing on the wall. He saw this club was, they were down to 9 members, and they were they were very close to folding. So at the beginning of the year, the club set a goal of adding 10 new members. They built a succession plan for leadership. But they used the opportunity, these are the words he gave me, they used the opportunity of the pandemic for guest speakers. And his past experience was with youth exchange. So he used this past experience to invite many past exchange students from around the world to talk about how Rotary had changed their lives. And he didn't just do that. He invited different people to the club. And they tried many new ideas to add new members. They invited school district leaders. They passed scholarship recipients. And instead of asking for money from businesses for fundraisers, they asked them to attend a virtual meeting. And guess what? This has resulted in people joining this club that they never thought would happen. We all know how amazing Rotary is and all the different things that they do. Well, he took advantage of that this year to show people what are some of the opportunities. And this club has doubled in size since the pandemic has started. So Marty?
So those are the 6 areas. And before we open it to questions and comments, Herb and I want to give you an extra credit freebie, because all of the clubs we've talked to, and I suspect your club as well, is talking about a hybrid meeting after COVID is over. And hybrid, it turns out, takes more than just setting up a Zoom account and flipping on a video somewhere in the room. And there's some best practices around how to create hybrid meetings. And Rotary International has got some information and a video on the website that's written there. And it won't take you long. I highly recommend you go through it, and you might. I certainly got some ideas that I'm suggesting to my club on how we move over to hybrid. So with that, I think we have just a minute or two to talk about any things that may have come up during our presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you, Herb. So at this time, we have just a minute and a half left. If you would like to enter a question into the chat, maybe we can get to it, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I want to invite you to please email me if you're looking for the statistics that are specific to your own home Rotary Club. My email address is both in the District 7950 district directory as well as the program directory for this district conference. Again, I am Missy Garlisi. I'm the membership chair for 7950, and my email address is simple. It's my first initial followed by my last name, mgarlisi, MGARLISI @comcast.net. Thank you again, Marty and Herb. I know we can all learn from these real life experiences that you've shared with us today for real Rotary clubs. This is where the rubber hits the road. If anyone has a quick question, please enter to the chat.
Yeah, we're sorry. We thought we had till 10:55. We would have, but oh well.
There's a question about what makes a good hybrid club. John Walcott, I suggest you look at that video. It can describe what you a lot better than I can in a few minutes.
So one of the things that I know some clubs are doing is looking at, sometimes they're going to have Zoom meetings, sometimes they're going to have live meetings. That's another option to consider with that as well. And I also see a question about the link for the presentation.